that are uninhabitable.
That was Senator Bernie Sanders in Baltimore on Tuesday. Sanders wanted to keep the conversation focused on socioeconomic issues inside the black community in Baltimore that day. To talk about that and more, I'm joined by Senator Sanders. Senator, thanks for coming on.
Great to be with you, Chuck.
Let me get you to first react to this first sort of full-fledged, complete poll on Donald Trump's plan. Majority of the country against it, large majority of Democrats. What's your initial reaction to it?
Here's my reaction. My reaction is that demagogues historically try to play people off against each other. What we have seen in the last many years in this country is people playing whites against blacks, men against women, straights against gays, native-born Americans against people who immigrate to this country. It's the oldest trick in the world. And instead of focusing on the real issues, why the middle class is disappearing, massive levels of income and wealth inequality, climate change, a corrupt campaign finance system, it's so much easier to let's blame all Muslims or all Mexicans are criminals and rapists. So clearly, we have got to come together as a people and address the real problems facing our country.
You know, there's a big divide on education, big divide between urban and rural on this. One way to interpret it might be simply that many Americans don't know much about Islam. And you could look at this and say, the more you know, the less fearful you might be. What would you do as president to reassure folks that live in middle America that may not have met many people who are Muslim about the religion?
Look, Chuck, as I think everybody knows, there are wonderful people in every religion. There are awful people in every religion. And historically, terrible, terrible things, including mass murders, have been done always in the name of religion. And that's what we're seeing right now. Vast, overwhelming majority of the Muslim people in our country are law-abiding, serious, good people. Some are not. That's true of every other religion. And what we have got to understand is that we judge people, as Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, based on their character, not the color of their skin, not their religion. And I think as a nation, we have got to do better for all of us to get to know each other in a way that we don't do right now, including the Muslim community.
Yeah, I know. When it comes to the issue of ISIS, there seems to be two challenges. One is military, perhaps diplomatic in the region itself, but the other is defeating an ideology. And I know you're asked a lot on the military front. I don't know if you've been asked about the ideology. How do you defeat an ideology like ISIS?
Well, from a military point of view, what we need is a coalition led by Muslim nations themselves who have troops on the ground, supported by the United States, Russia, the UK, France. That's what
you bring Russia. By the way, that's interesting. You would have Putin in this coalition.
Absolutely, okay. I would. Look, they lost an airliner and several hundred people. They got an axe to grind here. Let's work with them. Let's try to overcome or push aside the differences that we have. Okay, but you ask a good question. And that is, in a world of despair, Chuck, what you got is young people who want to believe in something. And if they don't have meaningful, constructive things to believe in, then terrible people can get them to say, you know what life is about is blowing up somebody, giving up your own life. And we've got to counter that. And by the way, it's not just us who has to counter it. Read what people like King Abdullah of Jordan are saying. He is leading the effort, along with others, to fight for the soul of Islam, to make sure that Islam is not hijacked by terrible, terrible people who wanted to convert it into a religion of hatred and violence.
It's interesting you brought up King Abdullah of Jordan. A lot of this, you talk to anybody, there's this feeling that a lot of this has come because too many Saudi elites have turned the other way for what's going on inside of Saudi Arabia. How would you handle Saudi Arabia on this issue?
I agree with that. I agree with that criticism. Look, two things. Number one, you have a country like Qatar, which happens to be per capita the wealthiest country in the world today, the wealthiest, going to spend $200 billion plus for the World Cup soccer games in 2022. You tell me how much they are contributing to the war against ISIS, and the answer is not a whole lot. Saudi Arabia, third largest military budget in the world. They're busy in Yemen. How about them getting involved in the fight against ISIS? And what we see in both of those countries, there are reports that families in those countries are in fact contributing money into ISIS. That has got to change.
How do you stop it? What do you do? What leverage do you use against the Saudis?
You got a lot of leverage. You know, the United States of America, Europe have a lot of leverage, an enormous amount of leverage to demand that these very wealthy countries join us in the fight against ISIS, that it is in their neighborhood, that it is their religion that is being hijacked.
Is that leverage what? Is it military contracts? What is it? What's that? You say there's a lot of leverage. Look, give me an example.
Well, we purchase a whole lot of oil for a start. We sell them a whole lot of military hardware secondarily. We have a whole lot of leverage.
Senator Bernie Sanders, I will leave it there. Thanks for coming on this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next.